The movie starts with the crew of the USS Theodore Roosevelt aircraft carrier managing the flight of an FA-18 fighter jet in the Indian Ocean. Meanwhile, in California, Captain Maverick is a test pilot for a U.S. Navy fighter jet. Maverick rides his motorbike to the fighter jet testing facility. When he gets there, the chief engineer, Hondo, tells him that their boss, Admiral Hammer, plans to shut down their hypersonic scramjet program, Darkstar, and redirect the funds to a more advanced unmanned fighter jet program. The problem with Darkstar is that it can't reach Mach 10. After hearing this, Captain Maverick urges his team to test the state Route 72 fighter before Admiral Hammer arrives. They start preparing, but Admiral Hammer arrives suddenly. Despite the Admiral's order to stop, Maverick insists that the state Route 72 he is piloting has a problem and continues the test. As he reaches the expected altitude, he pushes the jet to Mach 10. The numbers on the gauge slowly move toward Mach 10, and with Maverick's skill, he finally achieves it. Everyone at the headquarters cheers, but Admiral Hammer is not pleased. Maverick, always seeking to push his limits, speeds up the jet even more. This causes the plane to catch fire, and the team loses contact with him. Elsewhere, Maverick walks into a restaurant still wearing his pilot uniform. He asks for a drink while everyone stares at him. Soon after, a rescue team arrives to take him back to the U.S. Naval Base. The next day, Maverick meets with Admiral Hammer. The Admiral reviews Maverick's impressive achievements and wonders why he is still a captain. Maverick explains that he doesn't want to be promoted to Admiral because then he wouldn't be able to fly fighter jets anymore. Admiral Hammer wants to punish and fire Maverick for not following orders, but instead, he sends Maverick to a naval air base in California to be a Top Gun instructor. This is actually the idea of Admiral Iceman, Maverick's friend and former rival from 30 years ago. Iceman is now the commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet and ordered Admiral Hammer to send Maverick as a Top Gun instructor. Maverick is happy with this assignment. When Maverick arrives at the base, Admiral Cyclone and Admiral Warlock welcome him. Admiral Warlock explains the mission they need to accomplish. There are illegal uranium enrichment plants that violate NATO agreements, and the uranium produced there threatens their allies. The Pentagon has ordered them to form a strike team to destroy the plant before it becomes operational. The factory is in an underground bunker in a valley where GPS doesn't work. It is also protected by a missile system that detects heat, fifth-generation fighter jets, attack helicopters, reconnaissance planes, and some old F-14 fighter jets. Admiral Cyclone asks Maverick how he plans to destroy the factory. Maverick studies the site and suggests an attack using 2 pairs of F-18 fighter jets. He mentions that the mission is very difficult because even if they succeed in bombing the factory, the enemy's fighter jets and missiles will attack them. Maverick agrees to the mission, but says he needs 3 more pilots. Admiral Warlock interrupts and clarifies that Maverick was brought back not to fly, but to train 12 of the best pilots from various squadrons for the mission. At first, Maverick refuses because it isn't what he expected. However, since it is his last option and a request from his best friend Admiral Iceman, he finally agrees. After meeting with Warlock and Cyclone, Maverick goes to a bar to relax. There, he is surprised to see his ex-girlfriend, Penny Benjamin, working as the bartender. They talk about old times. Suddenly, Penny rings a bell, and everyone cheers. She points to a bulletin board with a rule. Any Navy person using their phone in the bar must buy a round for everyone as a sign of respect for the women there. Maverick realizes he broke this rule and has to treat everyone. Soon after, Maverick notices several Navy fighter jet pilots at the bar. They are Hangman, Phoenix, Payback, Fun Boy, Coyote, Bob, and Rooster. Maverick recognizes Rooster as the son of his late friend and Rio from 30 years ago, Goose. Hangman is the most arrogant and boastful among them, creating a rivalry with Rooster, as both claim to be the best pilots of their generation. Hangman tries to assert himself as the group leader, but the others ignore him. More pilots, including Harvard, Yale, Omaha, and Fritz, also arrive at the bar. Maverick checks his wallet, but doesn't have enough money to buy drinks for everyone. As a result, Hangman and the others force him out of the bar. Outside, Maverick sees Rooster playing the piano through the window. This reminds him of a time when he, Goose, and a young Rooster sang the same song together. The next day, the Air Force admirals gather all the Top Gun pilots. Top Gun is a school for the best pilots, and the chosen ones will carry out the 12th mission. 6 pilots will be selected for the mission, with 1 leading the team, while the rest will be reserves. Admiral Warlock introduces the instructor, and Maverick steps forward. The pilots are shocked to see Maverick, especially after having forced him out of Penny's bar. Maverick begins his lesson by throwing away the F-18 manual, saying the enemy would know its contents too. He explains that the enemy doesn't know how skilled the pilots are. Therefore, he wants all the pilots to demonstrate their skills before starting the training. Maverick meets Rooster, and Hangman becomes suspicious about their relationship. The air combat maneuver exercises begin with the rule that they can only use rifles, not missiles, and must stay above 5,000 feet. Maverick will face 2 pairs of planes. If he shoots down just 1 plane, he wins. Payback suggests that whoever loses should do 200 push-ups, and Maverick agrees. The first practice involves Rooster and Payback's teams. Maverick locks onto Rooster, causing him to lose and do 200 push-ups. Next, Maverick faces Hangman and Phoenix's teams. During this practice, Hangman leaves Phoenix, making it easy for Maverick to lock onto her. Hangman tries to chase Maverick, but Maverick flies towards the sun, dazzling Hangman. Maverick then locks onto Hangman's plane. Rooster challenges Maverick, trying to prove he can fly like him. Rooster's plane spins and dives sharply, going below the lower limit. He tries to catch Maverick, but ends up being locked by him. Seeing the tension between Rooster and Maverick, Phoenix asks Rooster what happened. Rooster reveals that Maverick blocked his application to the Naval Academy, hindering his career. This is why Rooster hates Maverick. After the training, Admiral Cyclone calls Maverick to account for training the students to fly below the limit. Maverick argues that the mission will require flying even lower and asks Admiral Cyclone to agree to the lower limit. Meanwhile, Hangman and Coyote discover that Rooster's father was Goose, a legend who once flew with Maverick. After teaching, Maverick goes to Penny's bar, where he meets her daughter, Amelia. Maverick's purpose is to pay off his debt to Penny. Afterward, he and Penny sail together to repair her boat. Maverick then drives Penny back to her house, showing he is becoming interested in her again. The next day, Maverick explains the mission route to his students. He tells them they need to fly very low to navigate through the narrow, winding canyons of the mountains. These mountains have heat-detecting missiles ready to attack any foreign object that gets too close. To avoid this, they must fly below the radar range of the missiles. Maverick says they must fly at a maximum altitude of 100 feet and a speed of 660 knots. They must also complete the mission in 2.5 minutes, or else the enemy's Gen 5 planes will attack. For the first practice, they will fly at an altitude of 300 feet in 3 minutes. Phoenix is the first to train. During this exercise, she has to fire a missile because she went above the altitude limit to avoid Coyote's plane, which braked suddenly. Maverick advises them to always communicate with the team. Next, Hangman and Payback train together. Hangman, with his arrogance, flies fast without paying attention to Payback. This causes Payback's plane to crash into a wall because it can't keep up with Hangman's speed. For the third exercise, Rooster trains with Yale. Rooster tells his teammate to maintain speed, even though they arrive late at their destination. They are declared dead in the simulation because they gave the enemy time to attack their planes. Rooster defends himself by saying he would fight enemy planes no matter how advanced they are because, to him, it's about the pilot's skill, not the plane. Hangman comments on the death of Rooster's father, which leads to a fight that Maverick and the others have to break up. The next day, Maverick meets his old friend, Admiral Iceman, who has throat cancer and can only communicate by typing on a computer. Iceman has helped Maverick keep his career safe in the Navy. Maverick tells Iceman he feels he isn't good at teaching Top Gun pilots and that his real talent is being a fighter jet pilot. He also mentions Rooster and his concerns about sending him on the mission, as Rooster could die. But if he doesn't send Rooster, Rooster will hate him even more. Maverick feels indecisive and asks Iceman to release him from being a Top Gun instructor so he can avoid responsibility and Rooster's hatred. Iceman encourages Maverick to stay as an instructor because he is the only one capable of teaching at Top Gun. The next day, Maverick takes all the pilots to play ball on the beach to build teamwork. This helps the pilots get closer to each other. That night, Maverick goes on a date with Penny and ends up staying at her house. While there, Maverick talks about his conflict with Rooster and how Rooster's mother had asked him to keep Rooster out of dangerous missions. She even asked Maverick to withdraw Rooster's application to the Naval Academy for his safety. During their conversation, Penny's daughter, Amelia, comes home unexpectedly, and Maverick has to sneak out. The following day, Admiral Warlock announces that the uranium plant is getting ready faster than expected, so the mission will be moved up to the next week. Maverick explains the most dangerous parts of the mission. There are two critical tasks. First, two pairs of F-18s must head to the target, working together to stay in position. They need to dive low to avoid being detected by missile radar. The first team will mark the target with laser-guided bombs. Second, the second team will drop a large explosive bomb to destroy the factory. If either team fails, the mission will fail. After the factory is destroyed, the planes must climb a steep mountain, which will put high pressure on their bodies and could cause them to lose consciousness. Once over the mountain, the planes will be detected by radar and missiles will attack within seconds. Timing is crucial. In the practice session, Team Phoenix pairs with Team Coyote. Coyote fails to drop the bomb on the target and loses consciousness during the dive. Maverick locks onto Coyote's plane, triggering the alarm and helping him regain consciousness. Meanwhile, Phoenix's plane hits a flock of birds and explodes, but Phoenix and Bob manage to eject safely. During the training, Admiral Warlock informs Maverick that Iceman has died. After Iceman's death, Cyclone removes Maverick from his role as the Top Gun instructor. Cyclone argues that Maverick's training methods are unrealistic and takes over the class. Maverick, determined to prove himself, completes the mission in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Seeing this, Cyclone appoints Maverick as the team leader. Before the mission, Maverick seeks Penny's blessing for the dangerous task ahead. A few days later, it was time to execute the mission. Everyone was on the carrier USS. Maverick chose the main pilots for the mission: Rooster and Payback with co-pilot Funboy, and Phoenix with co-pilot Bob. Hangman and the other pilots were on standby on the carrier. Hangman encouraged Rooster before they began. The pilots then got into their planes, and the mission started. Before entering enemy territory, the carrier fired missiles to destroy nearby air bases. The pilots had only 2 minutes and 30 seconds to complete their mission. They could see enemy missiles along the cliffs, ready to strike anything detected by radar. The carrier informed them that 2 enemy Su-57 aircraft were patrolling. Maverick pushed his plane to reach the target location before the enemy. Rooster, who had fallen behind, increased his speed. Bob, the co-pilot, prepared the laser to mark the target. After Bob marked the target, Maverick dropped the first bomb. Rooster then dropped the second bomb, successfully destroying the factory. They completed the first stage of the mission. Next, the pilots had to navigate through a steep cliff. On their way back, their planes were detected by radar, and missiles began to chase them. Maverick saved Rooster, who had run out of flares. As a result, Maverick's plane was hit by a missile and destroyed, but he managed to eject and survive. Shortly after, Maverick heard an explosion. It was an enemy plane that had exploded because Rooster returned to save him. Unfortunately, Rooster's plane was also hit by a missile. Maverick rushed to Rooster's location and found that he was still alive. The two planned to escape enemy territory by stealing a plane from the airbase. However, the plane they find is an old model. Fortunately, it still works fine. With his skills, Maverick manages to take off. Rooster sends a signal to headquarters, surprising everyone as they thought Maverick and Rooster were dead. While escaping, they spot 2 enemy planes below them. Maverick and Rooster pretend to be on the same team and greet the enemy planes as a disguise. Suddenly, Maverick attacks the 2 planes, but the enemy planes are very advanced and escape his attack. Maverick runs out of missiles, and they prepare to escape using the ejection seats, but the seats don't work. Just as they are about to give up, Hangman arrives and destroys the enemy planes, rescuing them. They return to base safely, and everyone cheers for Maverick, Rooster, and Hangman. Maverick and Rooster reconcile and hug, making peace with each other. A few days later, Maverick is seen checking a plane with Rooster. Penny arrives, and Maverick takes her for a plane ride. Rooster looks at a photo of his father with Maverick. The film ends. So the moral of the story is, always break the rules, crash a few jets, and you'll get promoted to teach the next generation of rule breakers.